Good morning. Convening the Staff Hearing Officer meeting of February 19th, 2025. We will begin with preliminary matters. Ms. Good, do we have any requests for continuances, withdrawals, postponements, or addition of X agenda items?
At this time, no, we do not have any continuances, withdrawals, postponements, or ex agenda. Thank you.
Very good. Item B is an announcement for 306 Palisades Drive, and I'll read that into the record. Pursuant to Santa Barbara Municipal Code, Section 2844110, when a proposed development involves the addition of an accessory dwelling unit to an existing single-family residence, the application shall be reviewed by the Staff Hearing Officer without a public hearing in accordance with Government Code Section 65852.2. Staff hearing officers shall not issue a decision on the application until at least 10 calendar days after the notice has been provided to the public. Staff hearing officer may receive and consider written comments from the public, but without a public hearing. Ms. Gu, I didn't see any public comments on this item. Did we receive any?
No, we did not receive any public comment on this particular item. Thank you.
And for these decisions, the announced decision is the final action of the city. For this project, it's in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the city's coastal zone. This lot's currently developed with a 1,850 square foot single unit residence and a 382 square foot detached two-car garage with a 219 square foot storage room. The project proposes to convert the garage to an accessory dwelling unit and provide two replacement uncovered parking spaces for the primary residence within the driveway. No new square footage is proposed. Discretionary application under jurisdiction of the Staff Hearing Officer for this project is a coastal development permit to allow the accessory dwelling unit. The project is exempt from further environmental review under Section 15303 of the CEQA guidelines, which allows for construction of a second unit in a residential zone. I visited the site, reviewed the staff report, and approved the project subject to the findings in the staff report and the conditions of approval outlined in the staff report. And that is the final action on that project. The last preliminary matter is comments from members of the public pertaining to items not on this agenda. Ms. Gu, do we have any raised hands or speaker slips?
Okay, on checking Zoom, I do not see any attendees or raised hands. And checking the room, I do not see any, I have not received any speaker slips for general items not on this agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gu. Moving on to our projects. The first is 2620 Samarkand Drive. Our planner is Will Russell. He will introduce the project. Mr. Russell, I'll read the project into the record before we begin. 2620 Samarkand Drive. There's a project previously that received planning approval on this property in 2021 for an interior remodel. Garage addition, first floor addition, second story addition. Original project received a modification for an interior setback encroachment. I lost my screen, but if you wish to continue. I'll finish reading the description. During construction in 2021 for the home remodel and addition, entry stairs to the main residence were altered from the approved design and were built in the front setback by approximately 7 feet. Previous design approved in 2021 located the entry stair outside of the required setback. Project was able to complete the home remodel and addition, but needed to receive a permit for the as-built entry stairs, and that's what we're reviewing today. So project is requesting a front setback modification to allow the as-built entry stairs to encroach approximately 7 feet into the required 20-foot front setback. And Mr. Russell, well, when you're ready, if you need a minute, that's okay.
I think I'm okay. Thank you.
Ms. Gu, if you could switch over to Mr. Russell's computer. Thank
Thank you. My name is Will Russell. I'm the case planner for this project at 2620 San Marcan Drive. This is located in a RS 7.5 low-density residential zone. The adjacent uses are single-unit residential properties surrounding this project. The current structure is 2,862 square feet, two-story single-unit residence with a 440 square foot two-car garage. The floor area ratio is 85% of the maximum. So previous planning approval, a previous planning approval was granted in 2019 for a garage addition of 219 square feet, a first floor addition of 617 square feet, and a second story addition of 818 square feet. That project also requested an interior setback mod, which was granted. But today, the issue was during that construction or remodel of that home, the entry stair configuration was altered and encroached about 7 feet into the front setback. So today, the application is requesting a front setback modification to allow the as-built entry stairs to encroach into the 20-foot front setback. This proposal has no change to the living area, garage, or floor area. So here on the plans, it's a little bit, a lot of things going on, but these are the entry stairs here. They extend out from the main home, so the previous revised design, and I apologize, I do not have them, was in keeping with the front setback line here, and was just altered during construction. So the previous design was approved, but the as-built design now encroaches. So the required approvals are a front setback modification, and then project design and final approval by the Single Family Design Review Board. Staff is supportive of the modification request because it generally meets the minimum landing size listed in the building code. And this secondary landing here, number 3, more acts like an extended stair step, not a landing. So it doesn't really necessarily meet the intent of what we considered a landing. So here's a good photo of what it looks like today. So that's that secondary landing that would be, more or less a secondary stair tread. Another reason staff supports this, the encroachment is minimal, approximately 7 feet. It will not block views, sunlight, or airflow. The design is compatible with the current design, the surrounding environment, and it generally fits the neighborhood pattern. And again, the entry stairs are modest in size and are in proportion to the main home. So staff recommends approval of the front setback modification based on the findings. And the project is exempt from further review under Sequence Section 15301, existing facilities. That concludes my presentation. I can turn it over to the applicant if he wishes to add any additional insight, but I think that should do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. And just for clarification, the Single Family Design Board has not reviewed the as-built condition. And this, if approved, it would proceed to Single Family Design Board after review.
I believe it has. Apologies. It's been a long time, and they had positive comments. But if not, it still has to go back for project design and final approval. Do you remember if it went?
It's good.
I can find out.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And
Apologies.
The architect, John Beaucamp, is that correct? John Beecham. Welcome, John. If you could speak a bit toward the design thinking behind this configuration and any other considerations for what we have today, and if you could speak a bit also to the previous approved configuration. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, John Beecham, architect for the project. One thing I wanted to just understand is in working with staff when this first came up, I think we're allowed the 6 feet into that, and it's so. I guess it sounded. My understanding was we were only 12 inches into that encroachment, not 7 feet into that encroachment, because of how the term of this landing is considered a landing or a step. So it's kind of a case of semantics in a sense. But either way, we get to the same goal, that the owners could get to their front door. And there's no change in heights. All the grades, nothing was changed from the original home there. But this configuration is different from what was originally designed and presented to single-family design board. And the only difference is the stairs kind of came straight out to the walk, slight shift edge to the driveway, so guests wouldn't have to walk on the driveway surface. They would still enter in. In this case, there's a planter bed in between, and these stairs are now on the visual here, we're on the left. This pathway for the for guests. That's the primary change. Again, still same result. We get guests and owners from the street to the front door. Unfortunately, this did change in the field, and the team at that, constructing this front portion didn't understand the city process to do this, but they still did a good job. And to change it now, the concrete colors would shift. We could never match exact. It would be a little unfortunate. There was one component about this, whether it's a landing or a step, and that a landing can only be 10 inches above. If that's a problem, this very front planter bed, can be raised a couple inches to meet that 10-inch requirement, if that's what is the technical element that's got us here. So we can solve some of those technical components if we need to, but that's how we kind of came to this position. I do have a drawing of the original if you need to see it, but it's just a line drawing that's kind of difficult to read. But you're welcome to it.
Yeah, that's good. I appreciate that. And there, the architectural package included in the application showed the approved configuration as well. We did get one comment letter from Nicole Clark, who primarily had concerns about the aesthetics of the house, which isn't under review today. The consideration today, again, is the encroachment of the entry stairs into the front setback above 10 inches. Knowing that single-family design board will weigh in on these, I think the encroachment, I agree with staff. It's an appropriate improvement. That said, the approval of the modification is contingent upon approval by single-family design board as well. So if they insist on changes to the entry steps, then the staff hearing officer approval could be adjusted by substantial conformance. Ms. Gu, do we have any public comment, any raised hands or public comment?
I'm
slips for
checking
this?
Zoom. I do not see any raised hands, and I have not received any speaker slips on this item for today. So as far as this particular item, we have not received any additional public comment. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you to Mr. Russell for the staff report. I agree with the findings in the staff report and approve this modification. This decision is appealable to Planning Commission within 10 calendar days, and again, the Single-Family Design Board will be reviewing these for their approval as well.
So at this point, Steph. We're approved at this point with contingent on design review, and then we come back to this hearing?
No, the modification is approved, but Single-Family Design Board also has to approve the configuration for it to be permitted.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.
And we'll set up for the next item, 801 State Street. Okay, the next item is 801 State Street. This is a new item. This is a proposal for a condominium map to create 4 condominiums. First floor is 2 commercial condominiums, and second floor is 2 residential condominiums that include, one of them includes an accessory dwelling unit. Discretionary applications under jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer are a tentative subdivision map for a 1-lot subdivision to create 2 residential condominium units and 2 non-residential condominium units, and an open yard modification to provide less than the required amount of open yard. And this project qualifies for an exemption from further environmental review under section 15303 and section 15305 of the CEQA guidelines. Our planner for this is Kelly Brodison. Ms. Brodison, if you have a presentation. And Ms. Gu, if you could switch over to Ms. Brodison's computer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Gullett. Yes, the project I'm presenting today is located at 801 State Street. Here is an aerial view of the project site. You can see it's on the corner of State and De La Guerra. It's just at the beginning, one of the entrances to the Paseo Nuevo Mall. And kind of a little bit further through is the movie theater, and you know, most people are kind of familiar with the Paseo Nuevo Court. Here's some photos the applicant submitted of the front of the building. On the bottom left is the side view of the building from De La Guerra Plaza, and on the top right is the front view of the building on State Street. As you stated, the discretionary application the applicant applied for is a subdivision map for a 1-lot subdivision to create 2 residential condominiums and 2 commercial condominiums. The proposed project, it's located on a 3,400 square foot lot in the commercial general zone. It's an 8,200 square foot 2-story building. It's the Las Tiendas building, which was constructed in 1925 in the Spanish colonial revival style and was designated a structure of merit. And again, they want to create 2, it's already an existing building, they want to create 2 commercial condos on the ground floor and 2 residential condominiums on the second floor with an accessory dwelling unit. Now here is a floor plan of the first floor, and you can see here that the commercial condos will be 4, and one of the commercial condos will be 4 and 6 De La Guerra, which is here on the side of the building on De La Guerra, also facing the Paseo Nuevo Mall. 4 West De La Guerra Street will be 261 square feet, and 6 West De La Guerra will be 952 square feet. So that will be 1 condominium. The second condominium will be on 801 State Street, fronting State Street. 801 State will be 743 square feet, and 801A will be 848. So that total condominium on State Street will be about 1,600 square feet. The second floor is divided into 2 condominiums with a accessory dwelling unit. So you can see here in the back, Unit A will be 1,200 square feet with an accessory dwelling unit between the 2 units, and that would be Unit B, and then Unit C will be 770 square feet. And then the basement is 1,200 square feet, and that is where the required private storage areas are for each of the condos and additionally for the accessory dwelling unit. Regarding densities, the subject project is located in the commercial high-density residential area. The base density of the subject project would be one unit. But to qualify for the AUD density incentives, the project has to exceed the base density on the lot. And so they're proposing two units, which complies with that ordinance requirement. And the proposed 2 units, the density would be 21.21 dwelling units per acre. And the average unit size would be 828 square feet, which is well under the allowable 1,245 square feet per unit. Although the project is in the priority housing overlay because it's proposing condominiums, it does not qualify for that density level. Per state law, the accessory dwelling unit does not count toward the density calculation. Parking, the project is in the average unit density area and in the central business district, so they're not required to provide any parking for the residential units. And also the project is within the radius that allows projects to be exempt from parking per Assembly Bill 2097. So the project is not required to provide any parking. Now, this is one of the project applications that they've applied for, an open yard modification. So typically, residential units must provide both common open yard and private open yards. For this project, because it's in a commercial zone and is developed with less than 4 units, they're not required to provide the common open yard. They are required to provide the private open yards, and for each of the units are 1 bedroom, and they're on the 2nd floor, so they would require 72 square feet for each of the 1 bedrooms. And the accessory dwelling unit does not require open yard. So they are providing some open yard areas on their balconies. However, because those balconies also act as the entrance point to the condominiums, they do not qualify and they don't meet the criteria. So for this reason, that's why the applicant is requesting an open yard modification. The tentative subdivision map, it's been found, as staff did an analysis, consistent with the general plan and the zoning ordinance. It complies with providing housing in the downtown neighborhood of the city. It meets the lot size requirements. It's physically suitable for the development. It's consistent with the density allowed, and it's consistent with the historic resources element. The new residential condominiums, it meets the required parking through the reasons I explained. It provides private storage for each unit. Separate utility meters will be provided, laundry facilities. Again, it complies with the density and unit size, and with the approval of the open yard modification, it will comply with that requirement. Regarding the open yard modification, I just want to say that because both units are 1 bedroom, again, they're only required to provide 72 square feet. Given that the site is fully developed, there are physical and historical constraints that prohibit the applicant from providing the sufficient amount of open yard required by the ordinance. So because there is sufficient access to off-site outdoor areas in the neighborhood and throughout the State Street area, staff is supportive of the applicant not providing the required open yard. So in conclusion, staff would recommend that the staff hearing officer approve the tentative subdivision map and the open yard modification and make the findings in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval in Exhibit A. And the applicant, Joe Andrulaitis, is here to provide any additional comments as he sees fit.
Thank you, Ms. Broadison. Mr. Andrulaitis, do you have anything to add? And if you'd like to share the journey of this project, this is something the city is very interested in. We've been talking about adaptive reuse for many years. We expect to have a new ordinance about adaptive reuse to facilitate these projects better before the end of this year. So I might have a couple questions for you about the thinking behind this project and where we're at today.
Yeah, my name's Joe Andrulaitis with Andrulaitis Mixon Architects. Yeah, this is a prime example of adaptive reuse with provide much needed housing downtown. It was nice to have the option to apply for the mod for the open space because, as you're aware, most of these old buildings don't allow for that. We did look at maybe providing it on the roof, but with all the roof equipment, it wasn't really a feasible solution. So I think overall the process went smoothly. I mean, my only complaint is always, the amount of time it took to get to where we are today. Wish we could make that a little faster somehow, but yeah, overall, client's very happy reconditioning the building and looking forward to having it occupied.
Very good, thanks. Yeah, a couple of things that we've discussed with City Council and Planning Commission about adaptive reuse is to accept any density that can fit into existing buildings, waive open space, and treat parking a little bit different. Knowing that would you expect that the unit count would be different for this? And could you speak to including ADU as part of
Yeah,
a
I mean,
condo?
if the density would allow it, we wouldn't have had to go the EDU route to get the extra unit. So, yeah.
Fair.
Maybe have looked at other options and maybe providing 4 units, who knows?
Thank you. And just a couple technical things. So could you explain how trash is going to work for the building? And I saw that bicycle parking waivers requested. If that's not granted, is there a contingency plan for that?
Yeah, I mean, there's some areas we could put bikes. They're not quite compliant with the requirements from transportation, but I think they're usable solutions. So I don't see the bike storage being that big of a problem. Unless they have e-bikes, which is going to be hard to carry upstairs, obviously. The trash, there's a shared trash facility that everyone shares in that Paseo that they're able to utilize. So that shouldn't be an issue.
Great, thank you. Ms. Good, do we have any public comment on this item?
On checking Zoom, I do not see any raised hands, and I have not received any speaker slips for this particular item. Thank you.
Very good. And yes, I've received no public comment on this item. Thank the applicant for your perseverance in this project. I know it's been a long journey, and I'm pleased to see you breathing new life into this building that is seemingly in the right smack in the center of town.
Yeah.
I'd approve the open yard modification. There's really no place for open space. You're lot line to lot line. You're essentially a corner lot that's completely built out. So you've got what you've got, and it's historic to boot. So there's not much you can do with that. Plus, people can enjoy the open space in downtown and State Street here and into the future. So I agree with staff's findings in the staff report and approve the tentative subdivision map as well, all subject to the conditions of approval outlined in the staff report. And like the previous project, this is also appealable to Planning Commission within 10 calendar days.
Okay.
So thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Ms.
it.
Brosnan.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to item C, which is 206 East Victoria Street. And I'll read the description for that. And I'll read about the parcel as well. So this 12,000 square foot parcel is developed with 3 buildings, 2,226 square foot neighborhood market, Presidio Market, 3,430 square foot Victorian single unit residence, and a 1,306 square foot detached storage building. Victorian residence and accessory building are designated structures of merit. The proposed project would reclassify the land use of the Victorian residence from single unit residential to group residential, which would allow the property owner to rent out the bedrooms individually. The discretionary application under jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer is a performance standard permit to allow the Victorian residence to be reclassified to group residential. The project qualifies for an exemption from further environmental review pursuant to Sections 15301 and 15305 of the CEQA guidelines. And Ms. Holly Garson is here to present on this project. Thank you for being here, Ms. Garson.
Yeah, thank you. Holly
Yeah.
Garson, again, Assistant Planner with Planning and Zoning, and I'll be giving the staff presentation for this item today.
Thank you. Ms. Gu, if you could switch over to Ms. Garson's computer. Thank you.
Thank you for reading the project description as well. That's helpful. So we're at 206 East Victoria Street, and this is the cover sheet of the drawings, just zooming in on the vicinity map. It's located downtown, sort of by Alameda Park. And I will jump to some site photos. This shows the existing Victorian residence, single unit residence to remain, the accessory structure, and then you can see the neighborhood market located on the corner of Victoria. Another photo. So here's a view of Victoria and Santa Barbara. The neighbor market remains as is. Residence is beyond. Parking remains as is from this view. Here is the proposed site plan. Okay, again, the residence is located here. This is the neighborhood market, and then the detached accessory structure is here. So really, the only visible change from the exterior will be a minor reduction to vehicle parking in order to provide the required long-term bicycle parking. The lot is located within AB 2097 buffer, which exempts the project from providing the required vehicle parking. And here is a view of what that long-term bike storage will look like, to be confirmed during building permit process, and it is located around here on this site. So jumping to the first floor plan of the residence to be group residential. So when you apply for the group residential use, a project must comply with a few specific development standards, and I discussed that in the staff report, but to reiterate those now, density is one of those standards. So 3 residential units are allowed on the lot using the base density, and there's just the 1 unit provided now. The next standard is open yard. The project previously received an open yard modification when the permitted use went from office to single unit residential. So for this project, we did process a substantial conformance determination, which found that the existing and proposed open yard will not be changed as a result of changing from single unit residential use to group residential use. So the same open yard still applied, and the approval was still applicable and acceptable. The next standard is setbacks. No setbacks are required for the mixed use development. There is a standard for unit configuration, which states that the entry access to all tenant rooms shall be through the interior of the building, and no exit doors from individual tenant rooms shall lead directly to the exterior of the building. So you can see here in bedroom number 1, pointing to this detail note, construction note 15, and then again in bedroom number 4. These doors will be infilled so as to not be able to access the exterior, but then to also maintain the exterior, which is historically significant. And then the next standard, you are allowed only 1 congregated dining facility located within the structure. So that's here on the first floor. Here's their kitchen. And then there must be a bathroom, at least 1 on each floor. So the bathrooms are located here. Moving to the second floor plan, the bathroom's located here for all of the bedrooms. And lastly, the applicant did provide an operational plan that identifies roles and responsibilities, contact info, and operations. It included a lease agreement with rules and regulations for the tenants. So that was attached to the staff report. And so to summarize, the project is compliant with all the group residential development standards, and staff is supportive of this PSP request today, and I'm here for questions if needed. I'll turn it over to the applicant if you'd like to add anything.
I think she covered it pretty well, so I don't really have anything to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you able to speak about the history of this building and how its use has changed through time?
Not necessarily. I mean, historical details about the building, I'm not really familiar with. It had once, it obviously began as a single-family residence. Then it was converted to commercial office spaces. Then it was converted back to a single-family residence, and now here we are trying to get the PSP for the group residential.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is kind of an interesting and unique situation where the building has been adapted substantially over time to meet needs. Ms. Good, do we have any public comment on this item?
On this particular item, on checking Zoom, I do not see any raised hands, and I have not received any additional speaker slips for this particular item. Thank you.
Thank you. I think for me this is very straightforward. I did want to ask if Building and Safety has reviewed the floor plans for building code compliance in case changes.
Yes, this project had previously gone to the building department and was in review, and during, that permit was issued, and then during the inspection process, there were on-site violations that were noted. So abating those violations is what brought us here, and those were found, in, like I said, in the inspection process. So it's already been permitted. So it's we're kind of a back and forth.
Yes.
It's an awkward situation, but yeah, it has been reviewed. And approved.
Thank you also for your perseverance. This is needed housing. This is unique housing. The city could use a lot more of this type of housing, but it is hard to come by. I fully agree with staff's findings for the performance standard permit and the CEQA review, and approve this performance standard permit for group housing. And thank you both for being here. Like the other two projects, this project is appealable to Planning Commission within 10 calendar days at 630 Garden Street.
Thank you.
Thank you both. And with that, I adjourn the meeting of February 19th, 2025. Thank you.